Somebody give you interest to have your money? Huh?
They charge interest to that.
What's the key word there? It's the way the world works. Unfortunately, those who have the money make more money. The rich keep getting richer. Those who don't have the money borrow it from those who do have the money. That's how the world works. Okay? Unfortunately, some people are always borrowing more and more money. They're getting further and further in debt. Okay? They're getting poorer and poorer. Right? In order to make money, you need to have money. So, that's the other end of it. We did the first chapter. It was investments, right? Now it's borrowing, loans. Okay? You want to take some of that money. And the difference between what they pay when you invest and what they charge in loan, you can call it a spread if you want. Well, that's what the banks make. Bank of Montreal just reported yesterday. In one quarter, how much of a year is that? How many months? 3 months. You know how much they made in profit, net income?
6 million.
Billion.
You got it. One bank in 3 months, $1 billion in profit. Partly because of the spread, the difference between, okay, you got 100 grand, I'll give you 1.5%. And then I'll take that 100,000 and I'll give people mortgages. I'll give people car loans. I'll give people loans for their snowmobiles, whatever. Okay, I'll charge you 5.5%. You look like a high risk, I'll charge you 7%. You're a really good customer, I'll charge you 4.5%. But what's the difference there? They get 3% of, it's not just 100,000, it's billions and billions of dollars, right? That adds up. Even after they pay for all the overhead, all the rental income on their buildings, if they don't own them, all the employees' wages, all the benefits, everything, they're left with $1 billion. Okay? That means $4 billion a year is what Royal Bank makes. Or, yeah, them too, but the Bank of Montreal, who just reported yesterday. Okay? Yeah, they all do. It's a public company. You want to own part of it? You can. You buy their stock. Okay? That billion gets divvied up between all the shareholders, right? It's a public company. Anybody can own it. It's like McDonald's and Coke and Walmart. Okay? You can buy their stock. Anyway. Recall. For investments, what did we use for formulas? Simple, which some of you forgot, is, and again, if you want to use the other form, fine, P plus PRT. Okay, this is Math 12. We should know how to distribute this P to everything in the brackets. You start doing that in grade 9. Okay, but I'm just going to write one formula. And then compound A is P1 plus that interest rate to the power of n. That's the number of compounding periods, not necessarily years, right? Okay. Well, luckily, we've already done this. Okay, so it's really, really similar. It's just the money's going in the other direction. Maybe the wording in the questions is a little bit different. Okay, when you get to credit cards, you'll see the rates are a heck of a lot different. Okay, it's unbelievable what some people pay when they use their Sears card or their Bay card and they actually don't pay it off. It's atrocious. 28% interest. It's crazy. And guess who owns the credit cards? The banks, right? Own a lot of them. Okay, that's where they also get part of their profits. Okay. Interest. If it's an investment, it's received. Okay? Or if it's a loan, it's paid. Either it's a reward or a fee. This is kind of like what we wrote in the first day. How do we know? We should be getting kind of familiar with this. How do we know what's going to affect the amount you receive, or if it's a loan now, the amount you pay? What factors? If it's an investment, okay, it's your money, you're lending 10,000 bucks, maybe it's to a bank, maybe it's a credit union, maybe it's a private investor. You know someone down the road, he needs 10 grand, you have 10 grand, all right, let's work out a deal. Go to our lawyers, sign it up, make it official. Okay, it happens. A lot of risk, but it happens. What affects that? What are the factors? What do you want if you're lending out money? Sorry? Rate? What kind of rate? If this is your investment, do you want a little rate or do you want a big rate? You want a big rate, don't you? I want to lend that money out at 50%. I want to be a loan shark. I want to be like this cash place that you bring your paycheck to and they charge you a small fee of like 60%. Okay? Yeah. People actually do it. The rate, the interest rate. If the rate is larger, I get more money. I get more interest. If this is your investment, you want a high rate. You got to look at the other side of the coin. If this is a loan, do you want a high rate? No. You want to borrow that money as cheaply as possible. You want a small rate, okay? So the amount paid, if the rate is larger, that's a factor, right? You're going to pay a lot more. What else? Not just the interest rate. Time. Okay? The longer that, you remember that graph I showed you? You know, 100 bucks, what was it, 100 bucks a month or 100 bucks a year? And if you wait long enough, remember it going whoop, like this? Exponential growth, okay? Time. The longer the period of time, if it's an investment, the more you're going to make. That's where we get the rate of returns, right? Is it 10%, 20%, 600% if it's in there for a long period of time? If time is increased. Okay, same thing for a loan. The longer it is, the more you're going to pay in interest, the more it's going to cost you. You want to pay it off as quickly as possible if it's a loan. Okay, and there's kind of one other thing we looked at. Kind of is related to the rate. How often is it compounded? Okay, and in your questions, you already saw a couple. It said this is compounded yearly, this one's compounded monthly. Which one's going to get you more money if this is an investment? Monthly. The more frequently it compounds, the more you get. And if it's a loan, the more you pay. Okay, so these are some of the factors that affect how much interest, whether we're talking investments or loans. And again, this is how we figured that out, okay? You took the future amount minus the present value, that was the interest, that was the difference. Okay? Now what I'm not writing here is time. That could be the term, it could be the payment. Okay, they're both affecting the time there, right? Obviously, the more you pay off, if this is a loan, the quicker it's going to be gone. All right. Example, Bill needs a car for school because he's not within walking distance of TRU. How's he going to get that car? Is mom and dad going to give it to him? No. He wants to make a single $15,000 payment in 5 years okay, so after he's been working, because it's going to be hard for him to pay it when he's still going to school, right? So where's he going to get the money for the car? His rich uncle. His uncle will lend him the money at 5%. Now I might have made this compound interest question, but because some of us had difficulty on the test with this, I thought I'd put it in there. 5% simple interest. My writing is not good today. And then you guys say, well, when is it? How much can he spend today on a vehicle? Okay, so does that look similar to some things we've already done? Thank you. Yeah, there's, it's not a heck of a lot different. We're talking some amount of money later on. What do we call that? Future value. We're talking about some money today. What do we call that? Present value. We have an interest rate. We know if it's compounding or simple. We know a time here. Okay. Can we do this on our calculator? TVM? Really, Ali? Would you like to show me how? Okay, my point stands, right? Yeah. If there's a way to do it, show me, because I haven't learned it on my calculator. Okay, it probably can, but what's easier? Use the formula. Okay, simple formula. Use the right one. Simple interest. There it is. What am I trying to find? What do I know? Okay, the time is 5 years. I know the rate is 0.05. 15,000, is that present value or is that future value?
Future. Not present.
Well, let's read on. How much can he spend? I have to know one of these things or I can't solve this. Okay? So this 15,000 is either this or this, but does this help? How much can he spend today in the present? Right? That's what I'm trying to find. So that means this must be the future amount. Okay? So it's in the wording in two parts of the question. If this one's confusing, a single 15,000 payment in 5 years, yeah, that's in the future. But you can also get the information from the other end of the question. Okay? So anyway, I'm solving for P. So I probably want to write my formula like this. Okay? Divide both sides by 1 plus RT. And P is solved for itself. So what's 15,000 over 1 plus 0.05 times 5? Well, I'll just do that just to show yous. If you got a good calculator like this one, you can do it in one step as long as you use the proper operations like brackets. Okay? If I don't use brackets, I'm not going to get the right answer, right? 12,000. Nice round number. Okay? So simple interest. Like they say, that calculator knows how to compound, but simple, I mean, you could do it on your calculator for each year for 5 years, but why the heck would you do that, right? Let's use the formula. Okay, second one. Similar to what we're done, not too bad. Same formulas. Jill borrows $10,000 at 4 3/4%, compounded quarterly, and wants to pay it back in full in 3.5 years. Well, what's this going to cost her? How much interest will she pay? And B, if she pays it off early, how much will she save? So, do we want formula or TVM? Let's do both. Formula. A is P1 plus I to the N. What do I know? Is that 10,000 present value? Is it P or is it future value A? Yeah, it doesn't say today, it doesn't say now, but Jill borrows $10,000. Does she borrow that in the future? It doesn't really, like he could argue, well, you know, if English isn't our first language, maybe in other languages that would make sense, but I think we should come to the conclusion she's borrowing it today, okay? Because she's going to pay it back in 3.5 years. That definitely is future. Okay, so now we're kind of clear. That's got to be today. So A is 10,000. 1 plus, what's my rate? 0.0475. How often is this thing compounded? Quarterly, 4 times a year. So I want a quarterly rate. And then N is 3.5 years times 4 times a year. Okay? One plus 0.0475 divided by 4 bracket to the power of bracket 3.5 times 4 bracket. Does it look like it makes sense? Okay, because we should get kind of familiar with this. I borrow 10,000, about 5%, about 4 years. Does it look reasonable? Sure, and we should know this from investments because it would say the exact same thing. I invested 10,000 at 4 3/4 for about 4 years. Okay, this is how much I got back. Should kind of look reasonable. Okay, it's a little bit more. So that's 11, 7, 9, 7, 12. Okay, did I answer the question? No. How much interest will she pay? Okay, so that minus the amount she put in, her principal, will give you the interest and that is 1797.12. So again, if that was an investment, that's how much you got. Wonderful, that's your reward. But this chapter, it's the opposite. That's how much you paid in a fee. Okay, that's how much interest you gave to the bank for borrowing that money for 3.5 years. Now, would you rather have that almost 1,800 bucks in your pocket? Sure. But if you need the money, that's what you got to do. Okay? So, calculator. You can do it that way too. I'll just not even write it down, okay? I'll just put it in. App. What's N going to be?
3.5 times 4.
Yep, same thing. I, 4.75. Present value, 10,000 bucks. Payments? No payments. Future value, that's what I'm trying to find out. Payments per year. Now this, again, there's no real payment, but it is compounded 4 times a year. Okay? That's what they mean. That's compounding times a year, but we have to put that in there too. Okay? Because otherwise it wouldn't be compounding, right? Same number, right? Okay. So TVM, we get the same thing, all right? But again, how much interest? We have to subtract that from our principal and get that. Part B, if she pays it off, oh, I didn't say it. How early? 1 year. So 1 year, you need a number, sorry. How much will she save if I pay it off a year early? Well, what will we do? I'm going to change the time from 3.5 years to 2.5 years. Okay, and let's see how that affects my interest. So I'm going to have 2.5 years times 4 times a year. Let's find my new future value. Should be less, right? Better be less interest because I'm paying it off earlier. Less time, less amount. Okay, so now it's 11,253.01. Did I answer the question? No. How much interest is that now? That much interest. How much did I save? This is what I would have spent in interest. This is how much I'm spending in interest by paying it off a year early. What's the difference? That's how much I'm going to save. Okay? So 1797.12 minus 1253.01 should be, what did I get? 544? Can someone check that? And 11 cents. Is that worth doing? Yeah, I'm really going to emphasize this, okay? Some practical life questions here. If you got the money, if you can maybe get your payments higher, you're going to save yourself 550 bucks by paying it off a year early. Wouldn't you rather have that in your pocket? Spend it on something else? Okay? Why wait? If you got the money, guys, pay it off. And you'll see when we get to credit cards, we're not talking 5%, we're talking like 20, 25%. The difference is huge. Okay? There are some fools out there who don't pay their credit cards off. They have balances on them all the time. And if someone were sat down and showed them how much interest they'd pay over like 20 years, they could buy another house. It's amazing. 92, number 1, 3, 5 to 7. Number 7 has payments. I haven't done one like that. Okay? But try to figure it out. Okay? Try to use your TVM, piece it together. Let's see what you can come up with.
That's great.